We're here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bringing news just for you. It's Wednesday, July 8th here in Seoul. I'm Isujin, and this is News Generation. Joining us today is Fabio.
Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday. We also have Brooke with us.
Hello, nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. And both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. So we're officially halfway through the week, and with summer in full swing, many people are starting to pack their bags and head off on vacation. Airports are getting busier, hotels are filling up, and many people are counting down the days until their next getaway. So let me ask you, Fabio, do you enjoy traveling?
So, Jenna, how can that even be a question? Of course, I love traveling, and every summer that I have spent in Korea so far, I make sure to either visit other countries in Asia or going back to Spain to visit family. I'm not sure if it's good or bad news, but I have a lot of work this year. So I might not be able to go abroad, but I'm still quite excited about exploring different places inside the Korean peninsula.
So do you make an effort, do you think, every year to at least go somewhere new?
Always.
Wow.
So even if it's not abroad, maybe Jeju Island.
That's still a good one. That's a good one. What about you, Brooke?
Gosh, I'm kind of the opposite. But coincidentally, I am traveling this week. I'm going to United States for a baby shower. The baby of my family is having a baby, so very exciting news. I also have some birthdays in the family, and my best friend, it will be her birthday. She actually used to live here in Korea with me, and she's been on the show a few times, but now she's living in the US again, so I am going to her to celebrate her birthday together. But honestly, I tend to travel for occasions like that, for a wedding, births, birthdays, performances. I don't like to travel just for traveling's sake. I think because I'm not a very good traveler, I get motion sickness, and as I've gotten older, my jet lag has gotten worse. So please pray for me in the upcoming weekend. I'm going to do my best. Honestly, I think I burned through all of my travel luck just coming to Korea. I'm pretty proud of myself that I made it here and I live here now. And I also enjoy just traveling around Korea itself. It's a bit less commitment than going, overseas. And there are so many places in Korea to see, which we're going to talk about today.
Right, so that's a great reminder that travel isn't always just about sightseeing. Sometimes it's simply about being there for the people who matter most. So we're going to talk more about this, but first, let's take a look at the screen. Travel is one of the most popular ways to unwind, broaden our horizons, and experience new cultures. And as Korea continues to attract visitors from around the world, new travel trends are emerging with more tourists looking to go beyond the typical sightseeing spots in search of authentic local experiences. Today on News Generation, we take a closer look at what visitors love to do in Korea, the latest travel buzzwords taking over social media, and share some must-know tips for young travelers looking to enjoy a true dailycation in Korea. Just as we saw in a video, travel today is becoming less about checking off famous landmarks and more about experiencing a destination like a local. And Korea is no exception. The country continues to welcome a growing number of international visitors every year. But how has the way people travel within Korea changed over the recent years, Fabio?
Well, first, we need to look at how many people are actually visiting Korea these days. So if we take a look at the screen, we can see that the number of foreign visitors to Korea in the first half of this year increased by 23% compared to the same period last year. That means that the number of visitors went from 3.87 million last year to 4.76 million this year. And as the Korean wave continues to grow, more and more international travelers seem to be very interested in choosing Korea as their next destination. And recently, there's been a huge rise in different travel trends. So instead of simply visiting famous landmarks or tourist attractions, it's more about people wanting to experience something that they haven't seen countless times on social media or pictures. More about feeling like a local and doing real local activities. So with Korean entertainment pretty much maintaining an unrivaled popularity, I would say that a tourist activity in Korea could become something a little bit more ordinary, like grabbing a coffee at a specific neighborhood, or maybe even shopping where locals do.
Right. So it's interesting how simply seeing Korean online is no longer enough. People now want to experience that lifestyle, that real lifestyle for themselves. And that shift is also changing where tourists choose to spend their time. So where are foreign visitors spending more time these days compared to the past, Brooke?
That's right. In the past, I think when you think of, big tourist destinations in Korea, you think of Namsan Tower, the place with all the locks, or going to Myeongdong where the street food is. And when my family visited recently, we did go to those places, but we also went to Noraebang and did fun things that locals also enjoy. So a lot of people these days are going to places like Cheonggyecheon Stream and Hangang Park. These are, again, places that locals frequent more so than the landmark destinations. In fact, according to data analysis, foreign visitors to Cheonggyecheon and Hangang Park, Yeouido and Bampo increased by more than 30% compared to 2017. We're also seeing people frequent more neighborhoods that locals enjoy, like Jamsil, Sincheon, Hongdae. I used to live in that area when I went to Korean Language Institute, Ohakdang at Sogang University. So it's filled with a lot of young people, a lot of students. It's very vibrant, great atmosphere. And another place that we're going to talk about later is Seongsu. And what's interesting about a lot of these cities is that they don't have these huge landmark destinations like Gyeongbokgung Palace or the Namsan Tower, but people still really enjoy them because they get to go to a bakery, they get to go to a pop-up store, go shopping, do these really daily, everyday life activities. And we're going to be talking a lot more about these exciting places as we go today.
I think this is a phenomenon we see more often because people are coming again. There's more repeat visitors. They want to try new things. So this really shows how travelers are moving away from traditional sightseeing checklists and toward more authentic local experiences. And this shift is especially clear in Korea's travel trends among international visitors. In fact, there's actually even a term that captures this new way of traveling. So what do we call this new trend of traveling like a local? And I guess what does it look like in practice?
Well, exactly. In Korea, there's actually a term, as you said, which is deillication. So you can think of it as a combination of the words daily and vacation. So instead of focusing on famous landmarks, it's about enjoying the everyday experiences that locals have. So the Korea Tourism Organization divides deillication into 4 main categories. So as we can see on the screen, for fashion and beauty, visitors show a lot of interest in Korean beauty salons, hair salons, and beauty products that are both trendy and relatively affordable. So popular stores, beauty chains, and fashion brands have become must-visit shopping destinations before people leave Korea. And in the food category, visitors are still interested in traditional Korean cuisine, but they're especially drawn to the everyday foods that they often see in K-dramas or Korean TV shows such as samgyeopsal or drinks at a cafe, street food. And things like having Korean fried chicken at the Han River Park, or even that is amazing, or trying soy sauce marinated crab, which is 간장게장, which is one of my absolute favorites, by the way, continue to be incredibly popular. And at the same time, more and more visitors are making reservations to try dishes that may sound a little bit more adventurous, but are quite common here in Korea, such as grilled eel, galbi, or yukhae.
Oh, I'm getting hungry.
I'm so happy to hear because I feel like some of them are, some of the typical tourist foods are kind of overseen, overheard, but then I feel like, like you mentioned crab. I feel like that's very local.
Completely.
And it's very good as well. So, but deillication go well beyond actually food and beauty. So what else are travelers doing to experience everyday life in Korea, or daily life in Korea, I guess?
Well, continuing on with the categories that we saw earlier, we have the accommodation and relaxation category. So this would be things like going to parks, like the Hangang Park, and having that delicious fried chicken. That's become very popular. For hobbies and leisure, our final category, tourists are interested not just in shopping and going to these pop-up stores, but also in things like one-day classes or personal color analysis. They also enjoy things like hiking, going to festivals, and of course, instant photo booths. We always see those on every corner. Now, moving on to Seongsu, which I said I was going to go over again because it's just such a cool place. It is one of the hottest areas, especially for millennials and Gen Z tourists that come to visit. It's known for its neutro vibes, and that's a combination of new and retro. So this was an area that used to be very industrial. It was full of shoe factories, in fact. And these have been repurposed and transformed to give you a very raw urban aesthetic wherever you go. They actually call it the Brooklyn of Seoul. So needless to say, people flock there. They say that it's a place where you can enjoy a day in the life of the trendiest Seoul locals. So the hippest people, that's where they go, is Seongsu. They have cafes, they have have a lot of fashion boutiques. They have these brand pop-ups that are very temporary. So of course that brings more people in. And of course, a lot of beautiful photo spots. Now, in addition to Seongsu, we mentioned earlier hiking. Hiking is another big part of the dailycation trend. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but Korea is very mountainous. I think it's something like 70%. Even just when you're walking to work, it's not flat. It's very, you get some exercise. There's some incline. So just within 5 minutes of where you live, you can probably walk and find a very cool hiking spot. In fact, the number of foreign visitors to Bukhansan, Bugaksan, and Gwanaksan last year increased by 829% compared to 2022. So that's amazing. It really shows that people are much more interested these days in local outdoor activities.
So it's amazing how the everyday routines many Koreans actually might take for granted have become must-do experiences for overseas visitors. So if someone wants to enjoy Korea like a local, where should people start? Where do people want to start? And that's why we wanted to hear directly from our viewers on this. So we ran a poll on the Arirang News YouTube channel asking which Korean lifestyle experience would you most like to do while visiting Korea? And here's what the results showed. So majority of respondents, 56%, chose Korean food. Relaxing at the Han River Park came next at 24%, followed by Korean beauty and hair salons at 14%. Shopping ranked fourth, with 6% selecting it as their top choice. So Korean cuisine clearly remains the biggest draw, no surprises there, but it is nice to see everyday experiences like relaxing by the Han River ranking so highly as well. So to better understand this trend, we're going to be joined by someone who actually visits Korea quite often, and their insights are coming up right after a break, so don't go anywhere.
NewsGen wants to hear from you. Go to YouTube and search out channel Arirang News. Click Posts and cast your vote in the poll. Make a new type of news with us.
We're now joined by Petra, a travel blogger from Thailand who has visited Korea many times. So hello, Petra. Thank you so much for connecting with us today. So Petra, how many times have you visited Korea? And when you do come to visit Korea, do you usually travel like a local?
I've been to Korea 18 times since 2000.
18.
And I do travel like a local now because that's part of my job as an immersive travel blogger. But the first few times I actually went with like K-pop tours where they get you into the recording of music back and stuff like that. Traveling like a local actually came more slowly to me after visiting more times and knowing more about the history. And at the same time, just, running out of touristy things to do. So it was automatic that I started paying attention to more local things.
What would you say are the benefits of traveling like a local, and how do you actually do it? What is the difference?
I would say traveling like a local is just more impactful. Like when you're traveling like a tourist, you are your own priority because the place is there to entertain you. Like how something appears to you is the most important thing. Like, wow, Gyeongbokgung is so pretty, and that's all that's important, right? But pretty has an expiration date. So one day when you arrive back home and you see your dog running towards you and you're like, oh my God, I missed you so much, and you've forgotten about most of Gyeongbokgung. But like when you're trying to assimilate to some degree, you start paying more attention to your environment. Your priority is now in how the locals are going about their days. What significance does a place have to them? And you're curious and you want to learn more. And that kind of knowledge, I think, stays with you for much, much longer after the fact. And it also expands your ideas and changes how you interact with the world. Just that kind of impact. I personally love chilling at cafes nowadays. I've definitely had ramyeon and fried chicken by the river. I also love walking along Cheonggyecheon at night. I especially love hiking the city wall at Naksan Park. I also, when I was living there a few years ago, I love spending every Sunday at a Jjimjilbang as well.
Yeah, I think you gave some great recommendations and some really interesting insights. So thank you for that. My last question for you would be, what would you recommend to people who want to travel like a local in Korea?
I think the better you know the culture, the easier it becomes to slip into the local mode, which is a paradox because the most important tourist sites tend to carry a lot of cultural and historical significance, which you need. So from my point of view, you have to cross that bridge first. Like, be the tourist, be curious about what the deal is with Gyeongbokgung, like be curious about going to the National Museum for a few days, and then you'll naturally move into appreciating everything you see more. I think watching K-dramas also helps a ton because you get to know what local life is like before you even arrive. So like when you're there, not everything is foreign and sparkly to you, but instead you start to put pieces together from what you saw on the screen and what's in front of you real time. And my last tip is a little bit extreme and a lot of work, but if anyone's up for it, I think knowing the language will like take your experience to the next level. Like you get even more access to less traveled places as well because you have the leverage to explore and get lost. Because like you can ask for directions, you can talk to your taxi driver, you can have random conversations with the locals about their days and where they like to go for dinner, and then you can go there too. Like randomly talking to locals didn't happen a lot to me in Seoul, but locals outside of Seoul and like other cities have literally started talking to me out of the blue, and I love that experience.
I mean, it's amazing to hear what you've gained through your 18 visits to Korea. And also, before I let you go, I know a lot of Korean people obviously love traveling to Bangkok, love traveling to Thailand. What is like one recommendation you have to travel like a local in Thailand?
This is tricky because the two things are one thing, they're the same thing. So it's street food. So it's like you gotta eat street food in Thailand, especially in Bangkok. But I would say this is controversial. I don't know if I should say it. A lot of people love to go have street food on Khao San Road. That's no longer true because that place used to be the thing like 10, 20 years ago, but now it's whitewashed. So everything you see there is like a tourist trap and like bars and sports clubs. So I would say avoid that.
I see. This is quite interesting. All right. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your insights with us today, Petra.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's fascinating hearing how travel becomes more meaningful when you experience a place like a local. And in Korea, the idea is now evolving even further. So what's the next step, Fabio, beyond traveling like a local?
The next step. Well, now that we've talked about deillication, I feel like it's time to talk about careacation, another term. So just as the name suggests, it's all about traveling to focus on Korean-style self-care. So it's not only about shopping for fashion and beauty products, but it's also about investing in your own appearance and overall well-being through beauty and medical services. And in fact, spending in this sector has increased by 71% compared to last year. Skin treatments account for the largest share, but vision correction procedures or professional makeup services are also very popular, probably thanks to the excellent quality and the very affordable prices that one can find in Korea. And I have to admit that from my own experiences, most of the tourists that I met, they never missed a visit to a dermatologist or a beauty clinic during their stay.
Right. So to close off our discussion today then, Brooke, what are your tips for people who want to experience Korea like a local, since you've lived here as well?
I have lived here for 10 years. I think our guest really put it best. I think you shouldn't skip all of the tourist attractions because they're famous for a reason. They're beautiful. The palaces are gorgeous. You can learn so much from the museums. So definitely take some time in your itinerary to see those places, but then also set aside a few days to do some of the more leisurely fun things that we've been talking about today. I think the problem is tourists come here and they have like a ticket ticking clock in their head. Like,
Right.
I have to see all of Korea in 5 days.
Right.
Try to get out of that mindset. Give yourself a few days for the tourist activities, and then give yourself a few days to maybe go to a baseball game, go to noraebang, go to a PCbang, my personal favorite thing to do. Just find time to actually experience it like a local. Also, like she said, I think learning the language can help, even just a little bit. If you learn something like 맛집, for example, which means like a really famous restaurant, if you can search that up, you can find what the locals are actually going to. And my final tip for you is don't limit yourself just to Seoul. Deillication can be anywhere, and there are so many other cities in Korea like Busan, Daejeon, which has Seongsimdang, my favorite bakery, you know, Gwangju. There are so many places you can go, so do not just stay in Seoul. If you can, if you have time, try to experience everything that Korea has to offer.
So whether you're chasing iconic landmarks or simply living like a local, the best trips are often the ones that leave you with lasting memories. As travelers continue looking for more authentic experiences, it's clear that the journey is becoming just as meaningful as the destination. Perhaps the best souvenir you can bring home is a glimpse into how people truly live. And that brings us to the end of today's episode of News Generation. But News Gen will be back tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Korea time with more stories and discussions. Big thanks to Fabio.
Thank you for having me.
And also Brooke.
Thank you. I'll see you next time.
And to our viewers, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully your next travel plan starts where the guidebook ends and where the local life begins. We are
News Generation.